All right, so my dystonia started I have cervical dystonia, and it started after my third child was born, and then after my daughter was born, my fourth child, I went to the neurologist, finally made an appointment with the neurologist. And I came in and I said, okay, I have this tremor. I have my head and it shakes. I said, I also have it in my arm and my shoulder. And he looked at me for a little bit and he went, well, does it happen when you lay down? Does it stop when you lay down? And I thought, I'm not really sure. I guess I've never thought about it. He said, well, I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think what you have is vanity, and I think you just need to get over it. So I did not go back to another neurologist. In the small town I live in, we had one neurologist. And so, let's see, when my daughter turned, she was having surgery up in the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And while we were there, because we were there several times after the surgery, I said, well, I'm gonna go just check with a neurologist if I can get a neurology appointment and maybe see somebody else, because it had gotten a lot worse. I had started working as a teacher, and the stress from teaching and other things had kind of gotten it to the point it was much worse, in my opinion. So I went to see a neurologist in Rochester at the Mayo Clinic, and I saw the head of movement disorder. He had me come in, and he talked to me for a while, just asked me questions, asked me about my life, what I did, and I had a tendency to do this, and this, and this. And after a few minutes of talking, probably 10 or 15, he said, okay, I'm gonna have you walk down the hall. He had me walk down the hall. He said, I'm gonna have you sing. He had me sing. And I'm trying to think what else he had me do. That might have been maybe him holding my hand out, which has some tremor in my arm. And he said, I know exactly what's wrong with you. I don't even know, take any tests. He goes, this is exactly what it is. You have cervical dystonia. He goes, because when you touch your face, it stops for a little bit. I wish it had stopped for a long time. I constantly touch my face. He said, it stops for a little while when you touch your face. And he goes, it's cervical dystonia. I'm glad we don't have to do any tests. He goes, I said, is it Parkinson's? So someone asked me if I had Parkinson's one day. He said, no, it's not Parkinson's. People with Parkinson's can have dystonia, but it's not Parkinson's. So I was like, okay, so where do we go from here? He said, we got this great treatment. It'll probably take, I want you to do it for 2 years, and I think you'll see a huge difference. I said, okay. So I made an appointment for the Botox treatment, and the first time I went in, they mapped my neck and the muscles in my neck. It was extremely painful, and it was just awful. It was awful. And they said, okay, we're gonna see you back in 3 months. And I was like, oh, okay, God, this is awful. So I went back in 3 months, and I checked in, and I saw the same technologist, but I saw different doctors every time they did the shots. And I would go into a anxiety attack about a week before I went to the appointment, and it was just like, okay, I can do it. I had anxiety all the way to Rochester. And I would get there, and I would sit there, and I would close my eyes, and I would relax and say I was on a beach. And they would do the injections, which were so painful. Our insurance would pay a large portion, I guess, but we still ended up paying $700 out of pocket after insurance paid every time I went in for these shots. So I went in for the shots, and I think it was probably the 5th time I had them done. I had a really hard time swallowing. I couldn't just normally swallow. I was like, after about a week, I was like, I can't swallow. It was like really hard to swallow. And so I called, and they said, we're going to put you in the hospital if you can't swallow. So tuck your chin, try all these different things. I'm not a doctor, so this is just what I think. I think I metabolized the Botox pretty fast, because it always started to act fast, but it wore off really fast. I can't even tell you I really got any relief, maybe a little bit, but it seemed like the muscles they put to sleep, other muscles just came and started to really take over. So every time I went, they'd be like, well, how much, help did this give you? I'm like, maybe 2 weeks, maybe. Well, then the long tendons on my biceps started to really hurt. I got to the point I couldn't lift my arms above my head, and just reaching for something like quickly would really hurt. And at school, I would start when I'd walk down the hallway, I would have my fingers hooked into my lanyard and in my pocket, my hands in my pocket, so I didn't have to move my arms. They hurt so bad. I think the 8th time I had it done, I always experienced a lot of dizziness about a week after the shots. I think because things are going to sleep and I was like, I can't keep my head straight. And I walked out of my house to go for a walk with my husband, and I slipped on some ice and just bam, right down these stairs. And there's like 3 of them. It's not a huge deal, but my arm got caught behind me like this. And I said, I think I ripped something. And so I went to the doctor and they said, oh, I think it's a bad fall. We're gonna put you in physical therapy because we think you've moved some ribs and we'll fix that. So I went into physical therapy this was in November, and I saw the physical therapist till February when they finally did a MRI in my shoulder and realized that I had a torn rotator cuff. So they went in to do surgery, and it was a strange recovery because when they went in, I had a frozen shoulder because it was so hard to move my arms after the Botox. That November Botox shot was the last one I had. I said, that's 2 years. That's 2 years. We're done. I hate it. It didn't do me any good. And so I got my shoulder fixed, and I've just lived with it ever since. It's much worse when I'm hungry. It's much worse when I'm cold. It's much worse when I'm stressed. And if I'm stressed, hungry, and cold, it's really bad. So I'm just living with it now. I went to see a new doctor, my Dr. Moo. So I went to see a new doctor, and she was just like, oh my gosh, you got to get this fixed. This is horrible. I can't believe you live like this. And I was like, it's okay. I'm probably just a little stressed seeing a new doctor, having to talk about all my problems and stuff. And so she was like, oh no, we're gonna make an appointment at Mayo with movement disorder. I said, I've been there. There's nothing they can offer me. Nothing they can offer me. I said, oh, there's got to be something they can offer you. So she made the appointment. I went, and he sat down with me and said, there's really nothing we can offer. I said, I'm sorry, it's not bad enough for any of the big things like deep brain stimulation. And he goes, and the Botox didn't work. And he goes, it doesn't always work. He goes, I can tell you why it didn't work in your case, or at least one of the reasons. He goes, you have cervical dystonia and an essential tremor. So when one's resting, maybe the other one's going. I do find now that I think about it, my head does shake when I first go to bed at night. I put my head on the pillow, and sometimes I have to roll over because I'm just beating my head into the pillows, and I roll over and it's a little better. I want to turn this way and up. If I put my head down, it's much worse. And if I put my head this way and down, it's much worse. So I've tried to learn to just relax the shoulder muscles. Easier said than done. And I continue to teach school. I just tell all my students at the beginning of the year and the second semester start that are new students that I'm not telling you no. If I'm upset and I'm saying no, or just I'm saying no, I will say it. I will say no. I will not shake my head no. I will say it so you know. I said this is just something that's part of me, and there's nothing I can do about it. I've had a few students tease me, they're high school students, and I've just called them out on it, and it's always been a real positive experience. I'm really surprised. I usually have a better relationship with those kids than the ones who don't do anything. So sometimes I wish people would just say, is your head shaking? Because I could say, yes, instead of, my head's shaking, you could quit staring, is what I want to say. But if I don't think about it, it doesn't bother me. If I think about it, it bothers me, of course. So that's pretty much all I've got. And if anyone has any ideas on what to do, I love it. I also suffer from TMJ. I had braces for many years when I was a kid, and they shifted my jaws incorrectly and had to put the braces back on years after they took them off. And I have problems with grinding my teeth at night, so I wear a big brace that the dentist made to keep the bottom of my teeth, to keep me from grinding. I still do grind, and I still can have pain in my joints, especially around family drama, especially around big family trips. I have a large family, and so when we get together with brothers and sisters, it can get a little crazy. So, well, I know this is really long, and I'm sorry for that. I hope they help somebody. Thanks.